I grew up at the ragged edge of the Atlantic, on a finger of rock called Little Harbor, Maine, where the wind smelled of spruce and salt and the population hovered around 800 in the summer, half that after Labor Day. In Little Harbor, every face was familiar and every story had been told twice before the tide turned, which meant triumphs were magnified and failures were tattooed on your name for life. My family lived in a weather-worn farmhouse 2 miles inland from the lighthouse. Dad, Henry Asher, cut timber for the paper mill 4 decades straight and mastered the art of silent endurance. Mom, Margaret, ruled the house with hymns and rules she'd learned from generations of Baptist grandmothers. Hard work, quiet pride, no liquor, no gossip, unless it served as a moral lesson. They produced 3 children at tidy 4-year intervals. Logan, the eldest, slid effortlessly into every expectation. By 18, he was quarterback, prom king, and the rumored heir to the Ford dealership his girlfriend's father owned. I, Ethan Asher, arrived second and softer, a boy who hyperventilated during dodgeball and spent recess sketching starships instead of scoring touchdowns. Clara, our little sister, tumbled in last, all curls and dimples. Mom called her the sunshine we deserved after 2 storms, never clarifying which of us was which cloud. Logan's victories filled entire pages of the Little Harbor Beacon. Fastest marathon time in county history, record-breaking sales month at the dealership, purchase of a 20-foot powerboat he christened Golden Ticket. Whenever I came home, Logan patted my shoulder like a benevolent coach and asked if I had found a real calling yet or still dabbling in comics. He said it kindly, the way a pharmacist hands you medicine. The truth he never bothered to learn. By 29, I was quietly wealthy. Secret Origin College had been a stumble. I spent 2 years at a state university, suffering asthma attacks in overcrowded dorms, flunked calculus twice, and withdrew the morning a guidance counselor suggested majoring in leisure studies. I returned to Little Harbor hauling shame like a lobster trap. To survive, I took a job at Galactic Gables, the only comic book store within 50 miles, a ramshackle haven of plastic figurines and midnight magic tournaments. That store saved me. It introduced me to Max Patel, a caffeine-fueled coder with a contagious grin and an unshakable belief that video games were training manuals for life. We spent slow afternoons brainstorming an IT support side hustle for local businesses. By 30, we'd parlayed those nights of troubleshooting router glitches into Anchorage Secure, a regional cybersecurity firm. 2 summers ago, a conglomerate from Boston bought Anchorage Secure outright for a figure that turned my knees to water, half in cash, half in shares of a rising AI company. I moved 3 hours south to Portland and accepted the CTO role at a stealth mode satellite analytics startup called Skyloom. My house was a modest 2-bedroom Craftsman near the waterfront. I drove a dented '07 Subaru Forester, wore thrift shop flannel, and donated quarterly to the Little Harbor Library under the pseudonym B. Banner. None of it was camouflage. I simply liked living small enough to feel the edges of my life. Mom, Dad, and everyone in town still assumed I rang up Funko Pops for minimum wage. Obligatory Sundays. Twice a month, without fail, I drove the winding coastal highway back to Little Harbor for Sunday supper. The ritual stole 6 hours from the weekend and 4 gallons of overpriced gas, but refusing felt like heresy. Dinner followed a script older than I was. Dad muttered grace, Mom served haddock casserole, Logan launched into the greatest hits of Logan Asher, the truck he was this close to selling, the ATVs he planned to upgrade, the way his twin sons tackled harder than varsity seniors. Clara, now married to an electrician and mother of 3, contributed cheerful anecdotes about preschool finger painting. My role was the background laugh track. Any attempt to discuss my work triggered one of 2 responses. 1, Logan would interrupt with an anecdote about outselling a rival dealership. 2, Mom would pivot to Clara's latest PTA bake sale. So I stopped trying. Therapy taught me that boundaries sometimes mean silence. The investigation. Late one March morning, while debugging satellite telemetry code, my phone pinged with an alert from a credit monitoring service. New hard pull inquiry detected. I hadn't applied for anything. Within minutes, 2 more alerts arrived from different bureaus. Someone was digging. I traced the IP addresses back to a private investigation firm in Bangor. A polite receptionist confirmed an account had been opened under the name Logan Asher. They specialized in comprehensive background reports. The combination of rage and amusement left me dizzy. Logan, it seemed, had paid professionals to prove I was a hopeless case. Evidence, perhaps, for an intervention over my wasted potential. I requested my own copy of the report. 48 hours later, a fat envelope landed in my mailbox. Employment history, real estate records, investment valuations, estimates of net worth that made my cheeks burn. Logan had meant to expose a failure. He'd uncovered a multi-million-dollar success. My therapist, Dr. Whitaker, suggested letting facts speak for themselves. When revelations arrive uninvited, she said, they're louder than any trumpet you could blow. I bought silence for one restless week. Then curiosity won. I hired the same Bangor firm and asked them to audit Logan's finances with every lawful tool. Symmetry felt appropriate. Their findings arrived in a second envelope stamped confidential. 3 mortgages on the riverfront McMansion, back taxes accruing penalties, 2 DWIs pled down in county court, 5 calls to the sheriff for domestic disturbances, unfiled charges each time, and a CPS case describing the twins firing BB guns at neighborhood cats. His credit score flatlined at 512. I slid both reports into a blue binder labeled Realities and waited for the next Sunday. The dinner detonation. The farmhouse smelled of nutmeg and tension the moment I stepped inside. Mom's smile quivered. Logan avoided eye contact, jaw flexing like a hydraulic press. Dad's weathered face registered only exhaustion. Halfway through casserole, Logan cleared his throat. "Ethan," he began. False casual. "Been meaning to ask how comic books are paying these days." I let the comments settle like fog. Then I reached into my messenger bag, produced the blue binder, and set it gently beside the salt shaker. "Since you already ordered the deluxe background check," I said, flipping to my net worth estimate, "you know better than I do." Mom gasped. Clara's fork clattered. Logan's ears flooded crimson. "I was worried about you," he muttered. "Figured you'd wind up on a friend's couch if someone didn't intervene." "I appreciate the concern," I replied, sliding the binder across to him. "Thought you might like reciprocity." I opened to his debt summary, red numbers screaming from the page. He lunged to snatch it, swore, and cast daggers at me. Mom demanded explanations. Dad slammed his mug, roaring we'd keep voices down under his roof. Clara shielded her youngest ears. The twins watched with gladiatorial glee. Logan attempted denial until I read the docket numbers aloud. Mom burst into tears. Dad stared at his son as though recognizing a stranger. Logan's wife, Nicole, whispered something about promise this was handled and fled to the porch. For once, I spoke plainly. I described my work at Skyloom, my buyout from Anchorage Secure, the therapy that kept my depression in check, the asthma still controlled by inhalers, but no longer my identity. I thanked Mom and Dad for food and roof growing up, but reminded them adulthood required mutual respect, not perpetual hierarchy. "I'm proud of the life I built," I finished. "I'd like you to be proud too, but that's yours to decide." Silence pooled thick as chowder. Logan rose, fist shaking, and hissed, "You should never have been born." Mom shrieked his name. Dad pushed back his chair to stand, but age slowed him. I met Logan's fury with something that surprised even me. Calm. "I'm sorry you feel that way," I said. "I won't apologize for existing." I slid my business card to Clara in case her daughter ever needed a summer robotics camp scholarship and walked out into the April dusk. Fallout. The next morning I froze my credit reports, changed every password, and installed additional security cameras. 2 days later, Mom called sobbing, begging me to forgive Logan's moment of stress. I told her forgiveness was a journey, not a switch. I declined the following Sunday's dinner. That absence detonated a second crisis. Without my predictable presence, the family ritual lost balance. Mom left voicemails, first pleading, then chastising, finally bargaining, "Come for dessert at least." Dad, unaccustomed to vulnerability, mailed a letter in his careful block script. "Proud of your achievements. Unsure how to make things right. Let's go fishing." Fishing felt safe. Neutral ground, mouths busy, silences acceptable. We drifted in his aluminum skiff on Quarry Lake. He apologized in 2 sentences and spent the rest of the afternoon teaching me to tie a blood knot. It was enough. Logan's fallout spread wider. The dealership learned he'd accessed customer credit files without authorization, the same tactic he'd used on me. They fired him. Nicole filed for separation, citing uncontrolled anger and financial recklessness. The twins' BB gun adventures reached animal control ears. Community service followed. I didn't gloat. I sent Logan a list of reputable debt consolidation counselors and a note, "Pride won't pay the mortgage." He never replied. New Constellations therapy intensified. Dr. Whitaker insisted anger must be metabolized, not ignored. So I joined a boxing gym, pounding heavy bags 3 mornings a week until sweat drowned the echoes of never should have been born. Between punches and product launch crunches, life bloomed. Summer in Portland brought food truck festivals, and at one such neon-lit evening I met Riley Quinn, no relation, an aerospace illustrator whose laughter sounded like skipping stones. We talked satellites and graphic novels and the ethics of fortune. She'd grown up one town over, but never judged the accent I slipped into after 2 beers. Our second date landed on the 4th of July. Fireworks flared over Casco Bay. I told her about Little Harbor, the binder, the family storm. Instead of recoiling, she asked what boundaries I'd draw next. Together we drafted them on a bar napkin. 1. Monthly call with mom and dad, no surprise visits. 2. Annual cabin weekend with Clara's kids, science experiments, and kayaking. 3. Logan contacts me through a mediator until he completes counseling and debt plan. 4. Sunday dinners optional, never obligatory. I photographed the napkin, emailed copies to my therapist and my parents. It felt legal, like deeds carved in stone. Mom balked at first, but Dad backed the plan. Clara wept happy tears. Logan remained silent. A different haven. That autumn, Skyloom's board approved opening a second engineering office in Boulder, Colorado. They offered me equity to spearhead it. Mountains instead of sea, dry air easier on asthma, a chance to write new geography onto my life. Riley, whose freelance clients clustered along the Front Range, grinned and started apartment hunting. Moving required final reckoning with Little Harbor. I invited Mom and Dad to Portland for a goodbye dinner. No siblings, no grandchildren, just the 3 of us at a harborside restaurant bathed in golden October light. Mom arrived clutching a tin of blueberry muffins. Her first words after hugs, "We're sorry for not listening sooner." Dad nodded, eyes bright. We talked about vintage radios and the time I set the backyard on fire experimenting with model rocket fuel. I offered to fly them to Colorado next spring. Dad joked about learning to ski. Logan texted that night, "Heard you're leaving. Hope mountains treat you well." It wasn't apology, but it was something. Epilogue on the Front Range. Now, a year later, I hike switchbacks beneath Ochre Cliffs, lungs clear in thin air. Riley's sketches of satellites adorn our living room wall. On Sundays, we FaceTime Clara's kids. They show off Lego robots. I mail them quarterly. Mom emails cookie recipes. Dad mails trout flies. Logan sends no messages, but I occasionally see his LinkedIn update. Assistant sales manager at a small dealership in Bangor. The golden ticket boat is listed for sale. Unpaid property taxes shaved from the asking price. I wish him solvency. Some nights I sit on the balcony and watch the Milky Way smear itself across the dark, remembering the boy who hid from dodgeballs dreamed of the stars. Success did not mend every wound, but it proved something vital. There is life beyond labels cast in childhood, beyond gossip that shrinks dreams, beyond even the boundaries of a rocky peninsula where everyone believes they know your story. I wrote a new one. And when the private investigator flipped the page, so did everyone else.